Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Let me know on the Zoom call if the audio is clear. If it's not, just ping in the chat or give me some feedback. So we're going to talk about hybrid mobile apps with Apex and kind of our solution around this. If you've, how many people here have done any Apex programming? Oh, great. So the idea here is to get all the features that you would have on an awesome commercial native application written for iOS or Android that has access to all the hardware features on the phone and has access to all the advanced features, but is as easy to develop as a web app, right? With Apex, with no code or low code. So this is one approach. There's a couple of approaches that we'll talk about today, but if you want to access Face ID, biometrics, if you want to do edge detection, if you want to use the laser radar that comes on these newer phones, on these high resolution cameras, the LiDAR, if you want to access files, if you want to talk to the file system, access the calendar, do all those other cool things. You can't do that with a web app. You can do a few things with a progressive web app, but you really need to go native. But if you build your whole app going native, it's going to take you 10, 20 times longer than with Apex. So that's the idea here. And as we go through this, if you can think of some use cases, we can talk about it. So when do you need to go native, right? If you want to, access the microphone, do authentication, if you want to have gestures in your app or process things very quickly using very little battery. If you want to connect to a portable printer. So if you've got a portable barcode printer strapped to your belt and you want to print barcodes off through Bluetooth, we'll need that. If you want to access the near field radios or the iBeacon stuff, right? We're going to use a really cool feature, which is scanning these images up here with the camera, so you don't need a scanner. So those are some of the things that you can use, and you can kind of think of some use cases that you might build off of those, especially if they didn't require coding and you could do them in Apex. So with Apex out of the box, we get mobile web browser apps. So just like a web app on your phone, it can be optimized for, it degrades well and it's responsive. So it can run really well on a mobile device, but it's still a web app. It has its own look and feel. It doesn't look like the native stuff on iPhone. You can access some of the geolocation features. You can access the camera, like if you choose upload file, it'll give you the option to access the camera. But you can't really do a lot with the camera. You can vibrate, you can store locally you can store some files locally, and you can do your statuses, but you have limited access to the equipment on that device. Now, progressive web apps, Oracle has been adding more and more PWA features to their Apex products. So you do get PWA, and you can write your own JavaScript in these PWAs. So you can get a little bit more features, right? Offline capabilities, limited push notifications, background sync, geolocation, camera access, right? But there's some things you can't do, like Face ID or Touch ID. You can't get it on the NFC. You can't do Bluetooth. With iOS, you can't put that app in the App Store. So you can download it from a website, and you got to kind of jump through a few hoops, 3 or 4 button clicks and some authentication, and you can get it to save to your home screen. But it can't be in the App Store, and you can't access the App Store. With Google Play, you can get a PWA there. Apple hasn't said when they're going to allow that. And you can do a little bit of multitasking and background stuff. This is really gets to be important when you're looking at tablet computing and that sort of thing. But with the native feature set, you can have everything, right? You can get the camera, you can do geolocation, write to the file system, you can access the accelerometer, you can do interesting things like augmented reality, and any new features and new things that they add, you'll be able to access those as well. And then you have full access to all the app stores, and you can access all the native APIs. As the mobile phone manufacturers, add more and more AI features to the phone, you can access those directly as well. One thing, if you'll notice, like on my iPhone, I can take a picture of something and it'll immediately do real-time OCR on text. And I think Android's done that for a while. It's relatively new on the iPhone, but if you want access to those type of features from your application, you can use, you have to go native. And the most popular framework out there is the React Native that came from Facebook. It gives you a JavaScript framework that's multi-platform. It gives you a cross platform framework, so you don't have to develop multiple apps, and you don't have to understand like Cocoa and all these low-level programming languages. So you just write a little bit of JavaScript, and they've got so many libraries that come with the feature. So you have a single code base that you can access everything. It is the fastest performing, which uses the least battery of all the other frameworks out there. And it's got a lot of stuff that comes with it, and a lot of people plug into React Native. It's the most popular framework out there, so you're going to get access to the most stuff. Yeah, so it's a really good balance between performance, development speed, and all that good stuff. But it's not a low-code framework. You're still writing a lot of code. You're writing JavaScript code, so you're not writing compiled code, but you're writing JavaScript code. So it's not bad, but it's not Apex either. Oh, and the other thing that it comes with, it comes with a web view browser. So you can bootstrap a React app and then punch out to an Apex app, and the user won't know the difference. They'll think they're on a native app, but it's actually accessing Apex across the wire. So I want to talk about a use case. We're going to look at this use case. This looks a little busy, but really it's just these four lanes. We're going to capture a document, right, which you saw, I think, earlier. We're going to code the right account on that document for accounts payable. We're going to route it for approval and review. And then we're going to be able to pay the invoice. And then there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background, depending if you have, Oracle, ERP, or anything like that. So, but basically, I'm going to show you first the desktop version of this, and then we're going to mobilize it and go through kind of some of that stuff. And then I'll show you the back end and how simple it is. Is everybody familiar with like a accounts payable process, purchase orders? Cool. So this guy. So I recorded this earlier since I had problems with the speed of everything. So here, like you saw before, we're reading in an invoice that received from a supplier. So in this case, we've got Versatile. Do that. So I've loaded an invoice, and I'm reviewing the invoice for payment. Here I've got all the data's been extracted using the AI extraction. We've matched up some billing and shipping addresses. We pulled out the line level information, and we're just kind of reviewing it now. Here you can see I've got invoice lines, so it's quantity of 5 at $53 each for $255 of this table, lasso, black, imperial, whatever that is. And in this environment, they need to match everything to a purchase order. Okay, so we have to do a 3-way match, which means that I better have ordered the 5 of these things, and I better have a PO that has that on there. And I better have a receipt from my loading dock that says I got that. And everything should match up. So here I'm going to be able to search for purchase orders. So I can search across all, right now we just have it to search across all vendors, but this is just for educational purposes. So we'll find the purchase order. There it is. That's same vendor. The only purchase order I have, and it's for $795. So $281 for my invoices below that threshold. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick that. And now I can go through my match process. So I've associated this invoice with the purchase order. And it looks like the PO was for 15 of those $53 tables. And it's $795. So I've got an invoice for 5. So let's see if I actually receive those 5 and it's okay to pay. So I can go there. I can go to the line level information, and I can go ahead and do my match. So here I've got invoice lines, purchase order lines, and purchase order receipts. So I need those all 3 agree, right? And then I can pay. So they all 3 agree. So I've got 5 on the invoice and $265. Let's see if I can match that. So I'll go ahead and click match. And so now I've matched it to the purchase order to this 15 line quantity. So I've got total order of $795 and 15 line quantity. So let's see if I have any receipts against that 15 line quantity. So I'll go ahead and match that line to the receipt. Okay. And here I've got it. So my invoice says 5 at 53 for 265. My PO says 15 at 53, so I'm okay there. And I have received 15. So this is okay to pay, but they're only billing me for 5, so I still have 10 left to pay. But I don't care because they've only billed me for 5. So I'm going to go ahead and match this PO receipt from my receiving doc. I could have let that play through. So okay, all 3 agree. Okay. And so now I've gone ahead and matched. I've got the match tag. And let's see, it's not showing, doesn't show my remaining quantity here. Let's see, let's go through it. So I'm done with this guy on the receipt. I'm done with this guy on the PO line. And there we go. So I've got 5 invoiced, 5 matched. I should have a remaining quantity. I don't know why it's not there. We'll ignore that for now. Yeah. We're only gonna pay for the 5 now. The other, like if there's any accountants in the room, so we would book that liability for the 10 to uninvoiced. It'd be an uninvoiced liability account, probably. So, so yeah. So we're okay to pay, and again, we've got back to our invoice group. It's been matched. My PO number's there, and now I'm okay to. Now I can code this, So we have what we call smart coding, where it memorizes the rules. So this is my business unit, division, location, department, account. So you can see those numbers, and if you click on those, you would see what the descriptions are. So I've smart coded it, but I can override this account coding if I need to. And we'll show you that now. So I'm going to add another distribution. Maybe I want to split this. One went one place and one went the other. So I'm going to go ahead and add that distribution here. So location, department, account. Okay, so I'm splitting out the tax line is what he looks like he's doing for 16 bucks. Okay. And so now I've got 281 for the invoice. I got 281 distributed, 0 remaining. So I'm looking pretty good. I've got a tax line for 1656 and a goods line for 265. And let's see here, what will we do next? Okay, so now I'm okay to request payment, and it's going to ask me to certify. Is everything accurate? The invoice number, invoice date, amount, and the invoice line. So I'm going to sign off with that with my user account. And this is really an approval on the disbursement, or the approval that it's okay to pay, so it'll go into my disbursement cycle. All right, so now my status changed. I'm ready to be paid. And so that would go through my disbursement cycle. And so I'm ready to push this into my ERP or into the next stage of the process. Okay, and that's it. So that's the desktop side. So that's not mobile. So let's take a look at the mobile version of this. Obviously, there's a lot going on in this app. We may not want to put all of that in a mobile app, but we might have some features that are really important to be in the mobile app. So we have these options, right? We can just do a web app that's optimized for mobile. We can do a progressive web app, right? Or we can do this hybrid approach. Either we can do it all in React Native, or we can do it mostly, 90% on Apex and just with a wrapper on React Native. If we use React Native, I've got everything I want: camera, geolocation, push notifications. I can talk to Bluetooth devices. I can talk to other apps. I can run background tasks. I can take it offline. I've got Face ID and Touchful ID. Notice I don't have those with this. If there's an RFID tag on it or a beacon tag on it, I have access to that. If I'm on a mobile device, I can multitask, right? So I have a lot of advantages by going with this hybrid mobile approach. And really, it's no more work. If I was on a PWA, I'd have to write for most of this stuff. I wouldn't get it out of the box from Apex. I'd get the PWA out of the box, but I'd have to write my own JavaScript for each of these functions. Okay. So how do we make this hybrid? Well, there's 4 components to this. So one is we have to create like a wrapper in React. So this is just a very small app. We call it a bootstrap app. And what it does is it's just an app that sits on, you get it from the App Store, it sits on your device. And so it initializes. If you wanted to do anything offline in that app, you could program it. It's going to give us access to the native features. So I put a little bit of JavaScript in that app if I want to access those native features. And then it runs WebView. And WebView, all that is a web browser. And that web browser allows us to connect to Apex. It doesn't run like in Safari. It doesn't run in Chrome. It runs within the app that we created, but it's just like it was running in Chrome. So the user doesn't realize that, hey, they're no longer native, they're actually talking to Apex, unless they're offline. And then we want to create all of our business logic, everything we want to do the heavy lifting in Apex, because we can do it there with low code. We don't have to write a whole bunch of code. We can move very quickly. It's a familiar environment that we already know. And then we just have to build a little bit of interaction between Apex and this guy. Apex is running inside of this container here, right? He's running inside of the browser part of React. So if we want to talk to the native features, we have to talk from Apex here to the native features. And I'll show you how we'll wire that up. I'll show you exactly how we do that. Just like this, we're going to have to interact. So we're going to use plugins in Apex. Has anybody built an Apex plugin? Not too hard. A little PL SQL, a little JavaScript, and we'll show you that. But we'll put native plugins there. That way I can have a single Bootstrap app. I might have hundreds of Apex applications, but I've got a single Bootstrap app that can run those hundreds of Apex applications. So I just kind of switch between the apps, or if I wanted to have multiple of these, maybe I have different clients, so I would have multiple of those. But really, I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to have one Bootstrap app and dozens of Apex applications. And I'm going to use the Apex plugins, so I don't have to write any code, and I can use those plugins in a declarative way. Maybe I have to hire a JavaScript programmer to initially build this for me. But as I build more and more features and more apps, I don't have to talk to that guy again. Or girl. So in the Apex side, we need these custom plugins, and they do two things. And that's one is they establish this communication bridge. So the Apex business logic and the PL SQL logic can talk to the native app, so I can access the camera, I can access Face ID, and then also handle the response coming back from the native application. Maybe I call the function that reads a reads a number off of some device with Bluetooth. That's going to want to come back to me, so I can be asynchronous. So I'm not sitting there just waiting while the thing spins and spins and spins. The other thing I want to do with my Apex app is I want to style it. And really, I'm sorry, my React side of it. So when the components first come up before it's talking to Apex, I want it to look and feel like Apex, because I want it to look like the universal theme. So we put a little bit of cascading style sheets in the application, just to make the app look like Apex, so the user has no idea if they're offline in React or online in Apex. So let's do this. Let's show you what it looks like, the online version or the React version. So what I'm going to do here is share this. Okay, so we've got, in my case, it's an iPhone. I'm going to go ahead and run this application. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, let me go ahead and log out. Okay. So you can see here that I've got Face ID. I can't do that with a PWA. I can't do that with anything except the native app. So there's two pieces to this. The first is registering your face with this and registering that biometric thing, or if you've got another device with a fingerprint. And then the second thing is to use it so I don't have to remember my password. So I'll try it again, and it recognized me. Okay, so that's the first feature. Then you can see in this list kind of a scaled down version of those invoices. Really very simple, and you can see it behaves more like a native application. Even though this is all Apex, it behaves more like a native application. And so I've got really two options right now, and that's just purchase orders, so I can see all my purchase orders. And I can see it in just a very scaled down view. All of this is being served up by Apex. There's no native JavaScript code here. So I can scroll down there. I can view documents. Okay, that one didn't have one. What was the? And then I can see my invoices. So this one, okay, that one's in. There's my 261. So here's my, and I haven't matched the supplier. That just means that the supplier in Oracle hasn't been matched. So this is the demo. I don't have a live system on Oracle to connect it to. But yeah, there's my invoice. If I wanted to look at the document, I could click that. And this document viewer is a native component, so it's very fast. And I called that, that's another plugin. And then I've got the invoice lines, and you can see they're simplified. This piece down here, you can notice that this piece down here, when I scroll, it stays there. So that's another native component. So it behaves more like an application. And that's all interfaced with plugins. Now, if I'm on the go and I want to edit this, I have access, limited access to edit it. You know, I could change a few things about it as I'm looking at it. Also, yeah, I can see there's just a very long scroll kind of idea here. And I can edit my current invoice lines or add a line to this one. You know, so I could, if I really wanted to do it mobile, I could, right? And you could add all sorts of things like purchase orders. So we can start to add, we'll add receipts to it and that sort of thing. I don't have that implemented here. Yeah. But I could see, mostly it's views. So if I'm on the go, if I'm on the shop floor, I want to check a receipt or something like that. Now, the other thing I can do, this is a very common use case, is I can ingest this. So I've triggered this plugin that I'm going to click, is called Capture Invoice. And so now I can access the camera. But as you can see, that little yellow box there, that's done with what we call edge detection. And so that's going to basically remove all this, you know, fine wooden paneling that's on this table, this wooden laminate. It's going to allow me to basically get a high quality scan. The camera on these devices now is 100 times more powerful than when they first came out. So we can get a really good scan even from far away. I can trigger the flash if I want to. I'll go ahead and take that picture. And as you can see, it's gone ahead and it doesn't look very good there. If I wanted to add multiple pages to it, I could do that. So here, this one didn't edge detect because it's, you know, for whatever reason. So I could actually crop it. So I have access to these features. And this is all part of, there's really two ways to do this. One is the native Apple components can do it. And then there's a tool called Machine Learning Kit, ML Kit from Google. But I can go ahead and crop that. If I wanted to add another page to it, I could do that. This one's a little bit, it's not a long form, so it picked it up and it automatically cropped it for me. And then this guy, he's probably gonna give me the same problem as before. Yeah, let's see if I can get that square. Okay, crop this guy. Okay. And then this last guy here. Usually your invoice is going to be 1 or 2 pages, so it's not really big, but you might use this more often for like an employee expense reimbursal or something like that. Okay. And so I'll go ahead and upload that as a new invoice, and you can see it's processing now. We'll give it a little time to work through the AI, and then we'll just kind of validate it. Now, I'm sure we're going to confuse the heck out of it because I've got different vendors and everything else. So while that's doing that, I can go ahead and get maybe a better scan of this guy right here. So it's just a single vendor. Six oh nine. Let's just run a little slow today. Well, I'll let that process here, and while that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of on the back end how you can do this. So ultimately, we have the Apex plugin, which allows us to talk from Apex. So these are some of the plugins that we built with biometrics, dismiss alerts on swipe. That's something to do with mobile, floating action button, image preview, thumbnail. So all of those little pieces were plugins, but there's not a lot of code here. So let me show you that. So if I go into, my application, and then I go to my shared components and plugins, you'll see that whole list. I'll make that a little bit bigger. And so the one I wanted to show you was the open capture camera. So here, just a little bit of render code for my, my PL SQL. And, this is the thing that it's going to call. And if I wanted to see the JavaScript components, so this one is, okay, this one's minified. Okay, so let's take a look at this JavaScript. So not a lot of JavaScript to call the component on React. You have basically the thing that it's gonna wrap this guy up and make that call. So that's really the call. Now that code needs to exist on the React app. Okay. And this is really, we're just sending it the options to the camera. So we're setting the threshold, the speed of refresh, the tolerance, some other factors in there, file format, all that stuff. And if I look at the React app, I just need to have this little starter app. And what's important in this guy is this app JSON, which it actually, that's our configuration file. So it has a number of things in there. So I can set the color to match my theme, which in this case is Redwood. And then really, I'm just setting the base URL. So when that app is called on the iOS or Android device, it'll go to the Apex URL. So this is just a bootstrap app. So you can take this app, and then as long as you've got the functions in there and the plugins to match it, with just that little bit of code, we can communicate back and forth. But yeah, you would put, Apex. Oh, actually, I can't edit there. Sorry. But yeah, that's the idea there. So let's take a look at.
Is the mobile app separate application different than the desktop, or is it a page within the desktop?
Yeah, so they're disconnected. So the mobile app, it goes in the app store. So you can't, like, if you can develop Apex apps that work on mobile, but they don't install like on your computer, right? You can't put them in the app store. They don't give you access to all those features. So you need to build a what we did here is built a JavaScript wrapper that doesn't have any Apex in it, but as soon as it gets called, it calls Apex. First thing it does is it calls Apex and logs into Apex. And then on the Apex side, that app is always running. Inside of that mobile app is a web browser called WebView, and it's calling Apex, exactly. And then the way we talk to it, since we want all of our business logic to be on the Apex side, because we can develop apps quickly, easily. We understand that framework. We don't have to be mobile developers. We want all that stuff on the Apex side to communicate through plugins. And then this is how it communicates. So they talk back and forth. I think right here. So they talk back and forth here. So your Apex app, doesn't have to be mobile, it's just an Apex app. It talks, it interacts through this web view integration. And then that gives you access to those native features. And then you have to actually write the JavaScript code on the Bootstrap, on the React Native to access the native features. So it's just a little trick. Now, the same thing you have to do with a progressive web app, except in the progressive web app, it's actually sitting, like you mentioned, it's sitting on the Apex server. And every time you call it, it downloads that JavaScript code in the progressive web app. But again, you don't get all the features with the PWA. You don't get any of that stuff. And so let's see what we got here. Should have given enough time. Okay. Oh, it's not showing up for some reason. I think I've got some filter. Okay, there's one of them. So there's my FedEx for $34. So then I should see if there's any invoice lines. I've got one invoice line. I can edit this if I want. It doesn't seem to be any tax was charged. There's no tax. So yeah, so no tax, no tip. If I wanted to edit that, let's say I put $1 tip in there, $1 tax in there, and I reduce my subtotal to 3201. You know, so I'm basically just having limited interaction. I'm just verifying amounts with the mobile application. And done with that, and then I'll just go ahead and
Log on back to desktop. You're gonna
Yeah.
see all the stuff.
it'll be in the desktop, yes.
Wasn't Apple removing applications that are just wrappers from the store window?
Yeah, Apple, so they don't like these kind of shell applications, right? They don't like the shell applications, but we've been able to get this stuff through. They want stuff to be in the application. Yeah, you're right about that. There were a lot of there were different frameworks, like there was a titanium framework, which was more of a HTML framework, and various different JavaScript frameworks. But yeah, that's you're right about that. But we've had no problem getting these in. Now I don't think we can put 100 of them in, right?
Yeah.
But we just need to get one in. So, but yeah, you're right about that. And they hate PWAs, and they won't say why. They just won't put a PWA. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was mostly with the React Native stuff. I think they get it mostly.
I think the junk games and the bunch of junk out.
Bad on the battery. I mean, because React Native is actually the only one of those frameworks that's not hard on the battery. So, yep. And then just a few other applications that you would see here. I just looked at some commercial applications that are out there. So, oh, this is the edge detection, just in case it didn't work. And then that piece right there is the plugin that's rendered. This render function is what calls that, what puts that there. And then, you know, Shopify gives you access to the microphone, biometrics, camera to scan, network information, real-time chat and messaging, notifications. Bloomberg, has native features. Walmart's app has native features. We've used this to do real-time OCR, so we can look at VIN numbers on cars, ear tags on animals. So this is non-barcoded, but like barcoding, right? We've also used this library to do counting, so to count pipes and measure things. This takes advantage of some of that LiDAR stuff because that gives you very accurate measurements. So you could do things. There was an application, it's called a bolus, that goes in an animal for agriculture. This thing's about the size of a chapstick, goes in, the animal swallows it, and it stays in one of the cow's stomachs, and it sends off information so you can access that. And then this device right here is like a cable that they use to measure this oil field drilling pipe. So you get one guy on the other end, they measure it, and then that sends out a Bluetooth signal. So those are just some of the applications I thought of. And I'm going to let Craig set up. While Craig's setting up, I can take any questions.
Okay, here we